Defense wins championship. So today I'm bringing you my top 13 defenses for week 12 fantasy football. And we're getting into that time where there's a bunch of injuries each and every week. We just saw Josh Jacobs and Drake London go down, and you need to figure out an advantage. And that can be on your defense and kicker rankings. So we're providing both of those videos for you here today. We started off here with the defensive rankings, and we started off in the S tier. And first defense in the S tier, it is going to be the Seattle Seahawks going up against the Tennessee Titans. After we just saw the Seahawks absolutely demolish and stop the Rams. Now, did they end up losing the game? Yes, but that's because Sam Darnold threw 4 total interceptions. But the Seahawks defense absolutely did not let the Rams score as much as you would think. And right now the spread is minus 13 for Seattle, with the total implied point total being at 42.5. But with Tennessee implied point total being at 14.5, which is super, super low. If we look at the Tennessee Titans, we've talked about how going up against them early on in the season, it was like a guaranteed number 1 best defense. It's gotten a little bit better towards the back half of the season, but they are still the number 32nd ranked team versus defense. So it's the best matchup that you could have when you're looking at how teams score against the Tennessee Titans when it comes to overall defense. Got to feel really good about having Seattle here. I don't really need to kind of harp on it anymore, but you got to feel good if you have Seattle. I'm not saying that they're out there on your waiver wire, but Seattle is still, like we said, they're a top 3 sack unit in the league, and the Tennessee Titans continue to give up the most defensive points. You want to lean into this overall Seattle Seahawks defense. Now we move it on to my second team here in the S tier, and it is going to be the Baltimore Ravens going up against the Jets. Right now it's minus 14 overall spread for Baltimore, with the total implied points being 44.5, but with the Jets having an implied point total of only 15 points. Let's be clear, they just announced that they are putting in Tyrod Taylor as the starting quarterback over Justin Fields. I don't know about you, but I don't necessarily think that's like a positive thing. I think I'd be a little bit more scared of Justin Fields. I understand he hasn't been able to pass the ball, but those long rushing touchdowns are always kind of there, that canonic code quarterback upside. Not to say that Tyrod Taylor's an absolute statue back there, but I mean, really just, I'm not expecting much, especially with Garrett Wilson still looking to be out. You're looking at A.D. Mitchell, John Mechie, Mason Taylor being your top pass catching options. The Baltimore Ravens should get up on offense, and then they should also kind of be able to do their will on defense. Absolutely love them here as the number 2 overall defense. Like we said, the Jets are, when they're going up against defenses, they're the 29th. They give up like top 3 in the league. You got to feel really good about going up against the fantasy points allowed Jets offense, going with the Baltimore Ravens for your defense. Now, my third overall ranked defense this week, it is going to be the Cleveland Browns going up against the Vegas. And I am recording this on Monday, so I haven't seen the Dallas Cowboys versus Las Vegas Raiders game. But the spread right now for next week is minus 3. It's slightly tougher, and a total implied point total of 37.5, with Las Vegas being implied with 20.5 and Cleveland being implied with 17. But the thing that we've seen kind of as of late is this Raiders offense, especially with Geno Smith throwing a ton of picks, is they are a bottom 3 overall offense that you want your defense to be going up against. And we just saw the Cleveland Browns hold the Baltimore Ravens in a pretty low-scoring game. I'm not saying they're going to do the same thing to the Vegas Raiders, but you got to have them here in the S tier. I just think the Browns, with the way that they allow very, very few yards, and the bottom-ranked efficiency Las Vegas Raiders offense, you got to lean into. So I think the Seahawks, the Baltimore Ravens, and the Cleveland Browns are my top 3 defenses on the week, and you got to feel really good about it. Now we move on to the A tier. And my first team in the A tier is going to be the Green Bay Packers going up against Minnesota. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, I had the Green Bay Packers ranked super high last week, and they let me down versus the Giants. Now, did Jameis throw an interception late in the game to at least get you to a decent spot in your defense? Sure, but it wasn't like a 2 or 3 pick game. They return a touchdown. Special team does anything amazing. The spread right now for Green Bay is minus 6.5. And I know we kind of saw Jordan Love come back into the game. We're probably going to be missing Josh Jacobs in this matchup. So the Green Bay Packers versus Minnesota, you're talking about an offense with J.J. McCarthy that has just really been giving up a lot of points to defenses right now, where they are the 27th ranked. And when I say that, and I've kind of said that before, you're probably like, oh man, 27th, that doesn't seem good. No, the lower ranked offenses going up against defenses means that that defense is scoring more points. And so while Minnesota is struggling, we're not seeing Justin Jefferson getting involved. We're not seeing, we saw the Jordan Addison touchdown. I just think the Packers will kind of be able to rebound with their steady pressure and with their kind of solid back end. So for me, I have the Green Bay Packers at my number 4, and I should have said pause, but I didn't say pause there. Overall defense number 5 is going to be the Detroit Lions going up against the Giants. Listen, same kind of idea that happened last week when it came to the Green Bay Packers. I understand the Detroit Lions are maybe not as good, but the spread right now is minus 11.5 for Detroit, with the New York Giants being implied for 19 of those points. And the Giants are kind of a middle-of-the-road team when it comes to giving up points to defenses. So I just kind of think we're going to rely on famous Jameis 30 and 30, Mr. 30-30 coming out here and throwing some interceptions. Like maybe Jackson Dart is back this week, and maybe this will push the Lions a little bit lower in my rankings. But right now, I think the Detroit Lions being number 5 is a very solid spread. And especially considering the fact that as we're looking at this kind of matchup for the Detroit Lions, I like what we're seeing. Of course, it wasn't the best day, but it is at home versus the Giants. So I always love a defense at home when that crowd noise can get involved and they can get a little bit more pressure. And I just think coming off of a loss, they're going to be a little bit more aggressive and trying to win that game. Now move on to my defense number 6, and it is going to be the New England Patriots, and they're going up against Cincinnati. And it's a little bit rough when you're looking at the fact that, do we know if Jamar Chase is going to get suspended after spitting on Jalen Ramsey? We'll have to see. I'm a big Bengals fan, so I hope not. But the spread is minus 7 towards the Patriots with a total implied point total of 50.5 points, with Cincinnati implied for 22. So really for me, the Bengals have just given up a ton of points when it comes to defenses all season long. Now, of course, you had a few of those games with Jake Brown, and we see Joe Flacco the past few weeks being a little bit more efficient, but Pats really have been getting after the quarterback a ton. And there's just a little bit of inconsistency when it comes to the Cincinnati Bengals, and especially if they're going to be without Jamar Chase. Like I said, right now, maybe we kind of, as we approach the week, I move the Patriots down maybe a spot. But right now, as I'm recording this, I think having them as my defense number 6, I feel very, 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 very good about. Now we move on to the B tier, and this is kind of the tier that I would say would be streamable. We started off with number 7, and it's going to be the Atlanta Falcons as they go up against New Orleans. Man, they've been super dominant when it comes to pass rush and getting sacks, but we just saw the Carolina Panthers absolutely eat their lunch. We're also going to be having Kirk Cousins starting at quarterback for them, potentially with no Drake London as well. I'm a little bit worried about it, but New Orleans, at least at this current moment, as we're recording this on Monday going into the week, their implied team total is at 19.5 points. Like we said, Saints are a middle-of-the-pack team when it comes to giving up points to defenses. I like the low point total, and the Saints offense has kind of been hit or miss recently, especially with them trading away Rashid Shaheed. Give me Atlanta Falcons here. I know it's risky coming off of what we just saw Carolina Panthers do, but I think the New Orleans Saints offense is a little bit worse than that. My number 8 overall defense is going to be the Pittsburgh Steelers as they're going up against Chicago. The spread is minus 3 towards the Bears with a Pittsburgh implied point total of 20. Let's just be clear. Right now, this might even come back to bite me at this current moment because we don't know if Aaron Rodgers is going to play, and so this offense might not be able to even move the ball, and it might just put the Pittsburgh Steelers defense in at bad positions as a whole. So when we get down to the Chicago Bears defense, which is in about 3 spots away, there's a chance that we end up pushing the Pittsburgh Steelers to the bottom of this tier or even move them down to the C tier. It's just too early to tell, but they have been super, super good this season. We just saw them have a huge fantasy football day in week 11, and add in the fact that there's always high turnover risk, and Caleb Williams likes to scramble, but with him liking to scramble, that leaves him for a ton of sack upside, even though he escapes a lot of those sacks. I hear you. Have them here situated as my defense number 8. My defense number 9 is going to be the Kansas City Chiefs going up against Indy. The spread is minus 3.5 for the Kansas City Chiefs. Indianapolis Colts are implied team total for 23 points. Listen, this is a tough matchup for the Kansas City Chiefs, but the Kansas City Chiefs have been red hot as of late. Specifically just holding opponents to low-scoring matchups. I think there's a reliable floor here for the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't think there's a great ceiling. So I understand thinking, hey, Caleb, you're telling me to go start the defense going up against the Indianapolis Colts. Yes, I understand this ranking could absolutely bite me in the butt this week, but I do have them as my defense number 9. My defense number 10 is going to be Jacksonville Jaguars going up against Arizona. Spread is minus 2.5. Arizona implied team total out of the 47.5 points is going to be 22.5. With the fantasy points allowed, Cardinals are overall at 23, which, like we said, so they are a bottom end team when it comes to giving up points because they have given up a ton of points to defenses in the past. I like this opportunity, especially with the Jacksonville Jaguars and the way that they've been getting sacks as of recently. But Arizona can score. We'll have to see if Marvin Harrison Jr. is back this week. Is Trey Benson going to be back? Maybe that Arizona rushing attack gets a little bit better. But I think Jacksonville Jaguars as the top 10 defense have to feel good about. Now we move on to the C tier. And first team is going to be the Chicago Bears versus Pittsburgh. And hear me out when I say, if Aaron Rodgers is out this week, I think you can make the case that the Chicago Bears should be in B tier and you can move them up. And I think you can make the argument that they should move up to like 9. But I think at this current moment, not knowing what the current situation is, it's a little bit murky for the Chicago Bears. I'm just going to assume that Aaron Rodgers is going to play through whatever like broken finger or broken hand he might have because it is his left hand. Spread is -3 for the Chicago Bears with a total implied point total of 44.5. Steelers are the number 21 offense when it comes to scoring defensive fantasy football points against. So the matchup's okay. The Bears have just been a little bit inconsistent when it comes to fantasy points. So I do have them here at number 11. At number 12, it's going to be the Buffalo Bills versus the Houston Texans. The Bills right now are -3.5 point favorites with the total being 43.5 points. Fantasy points allowed. The Texans are at number 13. So really, it hasn't been absolutely great. It's been respectable, especially with Davis Mills coming in. I think we'll have to see if CJ Stroud's back this week, but I think Davis Mills has been putting on a pretty good show. The thing is Houston Texans are going to have to throw the ball all across the yard to keep up with this Buffalo Bills offense because, if Josh Allen goes Mr. 3-3, they're going to have to put up some points. And so the Buffalo Bills here, maybe you could make the case to be a little bit higher ranked. Maybe they should be at number 10. But I think overall, just with how this Texans team has performed against overall defenses, I just want to push them a little bit lower than maybe I saw a consensus ranking had the Buffalo Bills. Move on to defense number 13. It's going to be the San Francisco 49ers going up against Tampa Bay. And this is going to be a great matchup. The Bucs are a mid-tier defense. Baker has thrown some interceptions, but they've also been highly, highly electric. There's a high point total with it being 49.5 and San Francisco being -6.5 points. Higher total ceilings. I think the floor, there's really not a floor. There's either a high ceiling or a super low floor. And so that's kind of what gets San Francisco here as defense number 13. Defense number 14 for me is going to be the Arizona Cardinals going up against Jacksonville. Jacksonville is a bottom 10 matchup. This is really only usable for me in deep leagues. But to be honest, like with the bye, there wasn't a whole lot of good matchups. I mean, maybe you put the Las Vegas Raiders as a team that I should have put up there going up against the Cleveland Browns offense that's absolutely struggling. But the Las Vegas Raiders team has kind of been getting gashed as of recently. So it's hard for me to have a ton of confidence in putting them up. Minnesota Vikings versus Green Bay. Again, maybe they're able to get some stops and get some touchdowns, but it's also a bad matchup for the Minnesota Vikings. Philadelphia Eagles are going up against Dallas. Not going to put them up higher. And then the Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the Rams. So honestly, I think for my top 14, I feel very confident in these defensive rankings. But like I said, if you like fantasy football, if you like defensive rankings, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button as we are on the way to 3,000 subscribers over here on the 4for4 Fantasy Football YouTube channel. Like I said, guys, I appreciate you guys. Catch you guys and have a great rest of your week and hope you win week 12.